Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. In his letter to God, 9-year-old Fred wrote, "Dear God, could you change the taste of asparagus? Everything else is okay." This week I'm using a book by David Heller, who had an interest in children's spirituality and how children view God. He traveled the country inviting children to write letters to God about anything they wanted to, and he collected them in a book called Dear God. These letters are something like prayers, and we are looking at a few of them together. Children sometimes have a way of seeing things in an uninhibited way. They are direct and open, and maybe never more so than in the letters we will look at today, letters like the one from Fred. Our letters today seem to center around something we all feel from time to time, wishing things were different. That's what Fred wanted with asparagus. That's what we want in other ways, too. Charles, age 12, wrote, "Dear God, did you make pencils and pens just like you made men and girls? I think pencils and pens go together better." Maybe you've seen those memes going around with a husband and wife in bed, and she is looking at him and thinking, "I'll bet he's thinking about another woman." And meanwhile, he's thinking that if he puts in fresh oil, that boat motor will probably work. Or maybe you've heard the one that says women spend more time thinking about what men are thinking about than men spend thinking. It's no secret that men and women are different. As the book title says, men are from Mars and women are from Venus. We live in two different worlds. And Charles, in his letter to God, seems to have picked up on those differences. When I read Charles's letter, I have to wonder if there is conflict between his parents that has led him to have the idea that women and men don't get along well. Maybe he's just seen a playground dispute, or perhaps at age 12, he's just beginning to note some of those differences between male and female. On the other hand, it may be that God made us with just enough differences to find each other interesting and compelling. In the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve were made as partners for each other, literally made for each other. We have differences, yes. Perhaps rather than being in conflict, we should celebrate them. Here's another letter. "Dear God, thank you for my parents, my sister Anita, and for my grandma and grandpa. They are all real warm and special. I forgive you for my brother Phil. I guess you didn't finish working on him." Sean, age 12. Sean's letter might resonate with us. Sometimes we don't get along with each other and wish things were different. Like Sean, we might even think about forgiving God for making our nemesis like they are. We are so often caught up in ourselves and our way of seeing things that when someone else sees them differently, it takes us aback. We think they are wrong or ignorant. If you want to see a good example of this, look at how polarized our country is on many issues, and how sometimes that polarization reveals itself in violence. It's not God who needs forgiving for this, but us in our own self-centeredness. We are not the center of the universe, and we are called to live in understanding and compassion for one another. Speaking of being the center of the universe, Wayne, age 11, wrote, "Dear God, my dad thinks he is you. Please straighten him out." I could continue the discussion we were just having in regard to this letter, But let me take it in another direction. One way to think about sin is that when we sin, we are refusing to let God be God. We are saying, God, I'm not going to let you be God of my life right now, and instead I'm going to be God of my life. Not going to let you guide who I am and what I do. I'm going to decide for myself. It often seems that God gives us our head and allows us to try it on our own. And when we make a terrible mess of things, we come crawling back to God with a plaintive, help. The gospel is that God welcomes us back in love and understanding and forgiveness for our turning away from God. Wayne may have been writing from his experience with an overbearing father, but the simple truth is, we all need straightening out this way. Finally, for today, I'm going to end with another of these letters to God that really needs no more comment from me. Edward, age 11, wrote, Dear God, if Jesus was alive today, what country would you send him to? I recommend the U.S. of A. We really need him. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.